Good morning, dear colleagues. Welcome for this distance training about labor market information. This video is presented to you as part of the training cycle on employment services organized by the International Labour Office in Geneva and the International Training Center of the ILO based in Turin. More precisely, this presentation is part of the learning corpus of the Module 2, which focuses on the service offer from public employment services to workers and employers. I will start by introducing myself. My name is François Dumorat. I've been working at the ILO since September 2020 in the unit in charge of supporting public employment services around the world in their creation or modernization projects. Before the ILO, I worked for 29 years at Pôle emploi, which is a French public employment service. I had a very varied career, mainly marked by managing operational teams as a senior executive. This allows me today to bring you a very operational vision of what a public employment service can be. So today, we will explore the different operational possibilities for delivering information on the labor market and see what administrative data is of interest to exploit. My presentation is organized around 5 parts, with a presentation of some examples taken from different continents. First, we will see that labor market information, which we will call LMI, is fully part of the core business of public employment services, which we will call PEACE. After, we will look at what type of data are interesting to exploit for LMI. Then, we will see that all this information are very useful to many agencies, job seekers, companies, researchers, and decision makers. Then we will examine the type of media used to disseminate this information. Finally, I will present different examples around the world, and we will see what kind of data are necessary to produce them. To start, I suggest you share a definition. LMI is composed of statistical and non-statistical data about the labor market, its institution, policies, and regulations. Of particular importance for public employment services are the change in labor market that affect labor supply and labor demand. I always used to insist on the choice of the term labor market. Indeed, the term market, which is usually used for goods, can appear shocking because we are talking here about people, workforce, and skills. Yet, the phrase labor market is far more appropriate because, like any other market and all other products, this one reacts to the laws of supply and demand. When an imbalance appears between the needs of companies and the volume of candidates, effects quickly appear on the level of wage, the type of contract, or the condition of recruitment. But we are talking here about workforce and human. if workers can take advantage to improvement in working conditions, the reverse is not acceptable. This is why the ILO, for more than 100 years, has been developing conventions and recommendations aimed at promoting decent work and the protection of workers' rights. Now, let's move on to our first part. I was just talking about the ILO conventions that specify international labor standards. Convention number 88 of 1948 is devoted to specifying the mission and organization of the public employment services. As you can see from Article 1, the agreement speaks of the labor market and entrusts the peace with the task of organizing it as well as possible. Article 1. The essential duty of the employment service shall be to ensure, in cooperation when necessary with other public and private bodies concerned, the best possible organization of employment market as an integral part of the national program for the achievement and maintenance of full employment and the development and use of productive resources. We know that the core business of peace consists in facilitating the matching between job seekers and companies with vacancies. Those who have never worked in the field of employment tend to think that this activity is the easiest. It does not understand, even is scandalized, that companies are struggling to, while the number of the job seekers remain large or increases. This is the whole problem of the mismatch between supply and demand. If we compare with the industrial market, we know that it is already complicated to rapidly increase the production of a product when there is an increase in consumer demand. We are seeing it now, for example, with the global semiconductor shortage. In the labor market, we are talking about human, workers, and skills to be developed. It is therefore even more to improve the match. This is the job of peace. Let's now look at the 5 essential missions of a peace as described in the Convention number 88. First, advise and support on job search and placement. Enforce regulations. Implement unemployment insurance. Decide and implement active policies on the labor market. Their initiative aimed at reducing the gap between supply and demand. Finally, organize information on the labor market. Let's be more specific. Article 6. Peace shall collect, analyze, and disseminate the fullest available information on the labor market and its probable evolution. So, we understand well that LMI is including 2 kinds of activities: collect data on what exists and present what is observed in an accessible and understandable way, and analyze this data to identify trends and mechanisms that can make forecasts that will be useful in particular to public and private decision makers. Now, let's move on to our second chapter. What type of data will be useful to collect? We can identify four main areas of information. The first three relate to the active population. This is made up of salaried workers, self-employed workers, and job seekers. The fourth area relates to the needs of companies. PEEs are responsible for collecting data on job seekers at the time of their registration or follow-up, and data on companies and business needs, or when submitting a job offer, but this only concerns companies that use the services of the PEEs, or through a dedicated survey on manpower needs sent to all recruiters. When these surveys are organized each year and the response rate is high, it provides very rich information on the state of the economy and sector trends. Data on employees are collected by companies. In some countries, companies have to report part of this information to the state or to the social or pension organization, either at the time of recruitment or as part of annual declaration. This data on existing salaried employment in a company are extremely useful for a good understanding of market trends. Finally, data on self-employed and employed workers in the formal economy are generally collected by the organizations in charge of registering this micro-enterprise, as well as by specific health and pension funds. What kind of data are collected by PEEs? For job seekers, PEEs collect data about sex, age group, status, unemployed, employed, self-employed, target groups, geographical location, occupation with usually a system of code, education level, and special qualification and work experiences. For employers, PEEs collect data about wages offered and type of contract, working hours, qualification on experience required, type of establishment, size for example, sector, industry, location, average time required to file a vacancy, medium-term hiring forecast, restructuring plan, and seasonality of recruitment, for example. In fact, a great deal of data is or can be collected by the PEEs and constitutes a significant wealth that is often little exploited. The crossing of this data can be extremely useful for many actors and serve to improve the labor market. However, it is obviously essential to ensure the quality and updating of the data to obtain relevant results and analyze. The data must be representative, relevant, timely, reliable, comparable, and accurate. Now, let's see what use can be made of this data. Four main audiences. For job seekers, LMI is extremely useful in identifying jobs opportunities. At the step of professional orientation, this allows the identification of recruitment trends by sector and by profession, but it also allows to go more in depth, to know the skills required by companies, the average salaries, the seasonality of recruitment, and the type of contract practice, for example. At the step of job search, this makes it possible to become aware of hidden market and to target spontaneous application. For employers, LMI helps them be aware of market trends. For example, when a business manager plans to develop a new activity, he can identify whether or not it will be difficult to recruit future employees with the necessary skills depending on the geographic sector. For training organization or institution of the Ministry of Education, IVLI use LMI to identify medium and long-term trends before deciding to create training in a particular profession. Finally, public decision makers absolutely need LMI to develop their strategy in terms of active labor market policies. It is a question of identifying the needs and the shortcomings of the market with a precision in order to decide to create on the device which will try to regulate the market. Now, let's see how this information are disseminated. Three main actors contribute to the dissemination. The public services, which have the majority of the data, produce and make available the main studies. As we have seen, this is their mission. First off, the Public Employment Services, then the Ministry of Labour. But we have also observatory dedicated to the analysis of the labour market. They usually report to the PIS or the Ministry. Some private or semi-public structures collect data at their level in their sector and can choose to use it and disseminate studies. This is the case of professional organizations such as chambers of commerce or employers' unions. Sectoral or geographic organizations can also produce studies after organizing surveys carried out in their area of competence. For example, evolution of green jobs in the province of Quebec. As for the media, they use the studies carried out by other organizations and ensure their popularization and dissemination. They can also sometimes carry out their own survey. We will distinguish four main families of broadcast medium. First, report and studies, which can often lead to presentation in the form of conferences. There are more aimed at professionals. Video support are very useful for presenting trades or professional sectors. They are used in particular for the vocational guidance of school children and job seekers. Specialized magazine, especially for schools and the general public. And finally, the website and apps, which are developing more and more. These have the specific advantage of personalizing searches. In all of the above examples, we are talking about support and tools that have already been finalized and made available. Some PIS or observatory even offer to the user the ability to access data, select indicators, and cross them to personalize queries. This is the case of Pôle emploi in France for the annual survey of workforce needs. Now, to end my presentation, I invite you to travel around the world. We will discover some examples of publication and support implemented by PIS or governments. Let's start with Canada. Here, the central government created the Job Bank. It is a website dedicated to connecting job supply and demand. This website also offers a lot of information and support on the labor market. For example, here you see a monthly newsletter on labor market trends in Ontario. Comparable media are available for the 13 provinces and the territories of Canada. Still in Canada, the same website also offers a system for analyzing market trends which allow data to be crossed by business line, by geographic sector, and by team. Here is an example of a table showing the trends in terms of average salary for the profession of cook. Now, let's go further south to Colombia. In this country, the Public Employment Service offers a space dedicated to LMI on its website. Several studies are regularly presented, as well as graphic representation. For example, this table shows the weight of each economic sector in terms of annual volume of job vacancies. This is very useful for job seekers or policy makers. Let's cross the Atlantic Ocean to get to Morocco. ANAPEC, the Moroccan Public Employment Service, is certainly one of the best structured PIS on the African continent. Several studies are available on its website. For example, the annual publication of the result of a study on business recruitment forecasts. These results are presented by geographic sector and make it possible to highlight the sectors with employment potential. Now, let's go back to Asia and explore what Malaysia Public Employment Service offers. Its name is Perkeso. This organization also offers several kinds of publications and tables that can be found in other countries. Today, I want to highlight an innovative tool that I have not found elsewhere. This tool on the website is called Popular Skills. It enables what is called the competence approach. That is to say, identify employment opportunity by searching not on the basis of a trade name, but on the basis of a skill that may be present in several trades. Here is an example on the screen. From the pedagogy skill, the tool identifies 12 professions that mobilize this skill. For these 12 professions, 720 job offers have been registered on the website. This tool can be very useful for job seekers who are thinking about changing job. Finally, to finish, I suggest you examine some of the services provided by Pôle emploi in France. The French Public Employment Service is old. For several decades, it has built many tools dedicated to information on the labor market and offers almost all the types of tools we have mentioned above. I will therefore present you only two supports. Finding information about a job. This support is hosted on the part of Pôle emploi website dedicated to LMI. It provides statistical information on all trades at the level of a region or a department. Here is the example of the profession of baker for the new Aquitaine region. As you can see, the system offers a very complete file on the profession. Supply-demand ratio, that is to say, presentation of the number of job seekers compared to the number of job offers registered in this profession. Average salary by age group. Seasonality for recruitment, that is to say, which are the months when there are the most recruitment for the job. Type of employment contract offered, and recruitment channels. Here, we see for the example of the profession of baker that the majority of the recruitment are made following a spontaneous application. We understand that these cheats could be extremely useful tools for job seekers, both in the orientation step and in the job search step. Second tool offered by Pôle emploi, the name is the Good Box, la bonne boîte. This tool is very innovative in the field of labor market information. Indeed, this is a predictive tool. Usually, LMI media simply provide data on the past and analyze trends. Here, this tool uses all existing data to identify companies likely to recruit soon. Let's be clear. These are not companies that have posted a job offer. No. These are companies that for several years have been in the habit of recruiting such kind of profile at such time of the year. The potential of hiring is assessed here. The tool is based on these recruitment habits to advise the job seekers to send them spontaneous application. On the example shown on the screen, the research was carried out for the trade of carpenter in the city of Bordeaux. 126 companies likely to recruit are listed. For each company, a descriptive sheet is provided with all the information you need to apply: address, name of the manager, etc. The tool makes it possible to refine the search with criteria such as the size of the company and the distance. We understand that this tool is really very relevant and useful for job seekers who want to identify what is called the hidden market. For memory, hidden market is to say that the companies recruit without having to submit a job offer. Here are only a few examples. There are obviously many others, many useful tools in many countries. After having presented these examples, I suggest that we look at what kind of data are needed to produce this kind of tools. Example from Canada. To produce this table, several possible sources. The ideal is obligation for any employers at each recruitment to complete an administrative declaration including a maximum of data on the employee: age, sex, level of qualification, experience, and on the contract, duration, type of salary, etc. Partial situation is using the data collected during the registration of job offers. Example from Morocco. To make this table, it is necessary to conduct an annual survey of all public and private employers in order to find out their hiring intention for the following year in view of the economic situation and the order book. Example from France. To produce this table, it is necessary to mix several sources of information: administrative hiring declaration by each company, salary, contract, seasonality, the data recorded by the piece on job offer and demands in order to calculate a vacancy demand ratio, and regular survey of job seekers who have found a job. In conclusion, we can say that all the data that are collected by the piece can constitute an exceptional wealth if they are fully exploited. Of course, it takes a lot of engineering work. A strong investment is necessary, but it's quickly paid for itself, because, as we have seen, this information of the labor market are very useful to many actors in the society and for the economy of the country. Thank you for your attention.